Welcome to the Pool and Spa Depot family. The following video is to help you understand what is involved in building your new above-ground pool. Your above-ground pool installation will require the following input from you. Number 1, to mark the desired location of the pool and equipment. Number 2, to order the necessary sand for the size of pool you are installing. Number 3, to check with your local codes office for permits and other requirements. Number 4, also make sure you are not placing your pool over your septic system or drain fields. And number 5, call 800-351-1111 or simply 811, or you can visit 101call.com for a free inspection of your pool site to check for buried utilities. Like any outdoor construction project, unforeseen circumstances may occur. Weather, scheduling, ground conditions, etc. Our service department will reach out to you and schedule a day that is convenient for your installation within days of your finalized purchase. If you have any questions at any point in the process, please reach out to your local Pool and Spa Depot store service department. Here are the numbers. Call the number closest to your location.
Hello, I'm Ben. I'm from Pool and Spa Depot here in Nashville, Tennessee, and today we're going to be showing you how to build a 24-foot above ground pool yourself, so that you can try and save some money and build this swimming pool on your own and get it all done. So now we have the perimeter of the pool laid out. We have a 2-foot overdig on each side. So this is a 24-foot pool. So the water will be 12 feet off the center stake to the paint is 14 feet. And that's going to be the area that is getting excavated. This yard is fairly level, so it'll be a pretty easy excavation. And we're going to bring the machine in a moment and start digging. So here's an overview of some of the equipment we'll be using today. We have a laser transit to make sure the pool's set level. If you have a relatively flat yard, you could use a string line level to level it off. There will be bricks that will level the pool after the excavation. There's hand tools, shovel, come along, broom for the sand, hand tools, duct tape, just the kind of the key items needed. So we're going to show you a few different things of the different components and equipment that you can get when you buy a pool from us. So starting left to right, you have your code compliant Tennessee state law pool alarm. You have your lights. You have your ultraviolet sanitization system. You have your skimmer. This is an advanced skimmer with an extra long, deep bag that makes holds the dirt and debris better than the traditional. When you buy a pool from us with the Platinum package, you get flexible PVC plumbing, not the kind of entry-level corrugated. This is as strong, if not stronger, than the strong Schedule 40 pipe that's used underground. You have your sand filter and pump, which this gentleman's unboxing now. I believe this is a 250-pound sand filter, more than enough for a pool this size. And then the last thing over here is your step system, which this is the Biltmore, which in a few hours we'll have this assembled and built for the homeowner to put into the pool themselves. Instructions are inside. It goes together quite easy. We'll show you that in a bit. So this is the Biltmore step. It's basically assembled with your regular drill, Phillips head screws, each different tread. You have 2 treads, 2 pieces go on top, screws that hold it in place, and it'll have a handrail system that can run over to the ladder that will be on the outside of the pool. Here we are adding the sand to the sand filter. The filter comes with its own little sand guide to ensure that you don't get any sand in the standpipe inside the sand tank. This keeps sand out of the center of that hole. This comes with it to make sure that it goes, there you go, that it goes around the pipe, not in the pipe. And this is what's going to help keep your water clean for years and years to come. So in our filtration systems, we use flexible PVC with glue. We don't use hose clamps on any of the actual filter fittings. This is something that when you buy a pool from us, we'll supply this. The only thing you'll need to get is the glue and cleaner. Very simple. You put the glue on, stick it in. You can then set it up to your union on top of your multi-port, measure, cut, rinse and repeat, glue it in. All of our filtration systems will have quick disconnect fittings, so that if you want to take this in the winter and store it, all you have to do is unthread this, take the hose off, and it disassembles in minutes, not hours. So if you have a laser or transit when you're doing this, you'll have one person either excavating, whether you're using shovels, bobcat that's rented, or from a neighbor or friend. You have one person shooting the grade to make sure that the pool's set level. It is important to spend as much time as possible making sure that the pool is level, because after the pool is built, this is not something that can be fixed without disassembling the pool. So our guys are moving very fast right now because they do it all day, every day. But this is the part of the construction of your pool you should spend the single most amount of time ensuring that it is level. And you can still do this with a line level and a tape measure. You do not have to have a laser to do so. It's just simply going to take a little bit more time. So after the excavation of the pool is complete, you have to refine the center of your swimming pool. So what they're finding now is to basically relocate the center of the swimming pool. Then they're going to repaint out the more or less the water's edge of where the wall of the swimming pool will be placed. That way when we bring the sand in here, we have a location to pull off of, and we know where to set the outer track that the wall is rolled out into. So they just keep on checking until they find it. And this is part of where the 2-foot overdig helps you, because you have some room, some tolerances in there to find center. And if it's not exactly perfect, you have that 2 foot on each side, which you can eat up some of it. This is him painting the wall or water's edge. What Mike's bringing out now is the bottom track for the swimming pool. They're going to start to lay out the entire outer perimeter of bottom track, bottom plates. Now this is a resin pool, so the only steel component or metal component will be the wall itself. So everything will lock together, kind of like a snap lock. So they're basically going to position each component for the uprights, bottom cap. So this is more or less what the bottom track will lock into. It has stoppers on each end, so you push it into place. There is room to where you can kind of have some adjustments on this, but if I remember correctly, there's basically bottomed out all the way through to the stopper. Great pieces he's putting together now is the track. You can see pulls them back to leave them some space. That way you can recenter the pool, make sure everything's coming out plumb and the correct dimensions. If you put these together completely tight, every single one, that's what you're going to basically, yeah, you're going to use that to measure basically and adjust them accordingly. You can use patio block pavers, brick. You don't want it to be super thick. This is just I think it's 1.5 inches or 1.25 inches thick. Break it into multiple pieces. This is what you'll use to give the fine-tuned leveling and to set the bottom plate on once you're leveling it. And again, if you do not have a laser, you can use a line level. It's just simply going to take more time. So now we're setting the outer wall. So this is 24-foot pull. So from center, we're pulling 12 feet. We have rebar to stake the back of the wall to help hold that measurement true. And what I was saying earlier about shoring up the track and making sure it stays true, use the rebar to basically ensure that. And go all the way around the pool, and it's more or less rinse, repeat, bottom track, bottom plate, check your measurements, make sure, and you kind of adjust it and move it to its 12-foot mark. And depending on the size of the pool that you have, whether it's a 28, you simply just cut the measurement in half, and that's your wall measurement. And you can see where this gentleman's standing over here. This is another reason you want to have an overdig, because this is a fairly level yard. So if you were not as level, he could have dirt up to his knees. So you want to have enough room for people to be able to work around the outside of the track. So as you're setting your outside track to be true, you can use rebar. You can get very large framing nails and set them down as well to hold it if rebar becomes an expense things too much. Anything to set in here to set this track true. You just want something to be able to hold it back and stop it from moving throughout the construction of the swimming pool. Here we are, Mike's shooting grade to make sure the plates are level. Just wanting to verify that the pool wall is going to come out level, setting these blocks down. If you have a good dig, this should be a very, very easy part. If you have a bad dig and you say didn't have it as level, you may be using multiple blocks, roofing shingles, anything like that to set the track level. Better the dig, the easier the build. That's why earlier I was saying if you're doing this as a DIY and at your own, whether you're using equipment, a tractor or whatever, the dig is the single most important part to ensure is level and done correctly. So here we are, we dug down a little bit underneath each block. You're using sand to basically ensure that the block stays level. It's easier to kind of shim down to make sure it's good on both sides, pack the sand around it. Sand's just easier to manipulate than today. It's a little damp. We had some rain last night, so it's easier to manipulate and keep that block level with sand than it would be dirt. And this is the same sand that comes out from over here to the left that we'll be setting down as the pool base, so there's more than enough of it around to use as a leveler. So regardless of whether you do a DIY or you pay us to build your swimming pool for you, it is you are required to provide the sand and purchase that on your own. And same thing for the permit. So the sand that's out here, it's a 24-foot pool. We have 7 tons of sand. There will likely be some left over because when you're building the swimming pool, you'd rather have more materials than not enough on site. So this is a bladder that we use because we build multiple swimming pools in a day. So this is something that's set up in the very beginning. We begin to fill up with water so that when the liner gets put into the swimming pool, we can transfer water very quickly so our guys are not waiting on a garden hose. Now, if you're doing this yourself at your own home, this is not a necessary component. You can just use your garden hose and begin the water that way. This is simply to save us time so we can build multiple pools in one day. So the ultraviolet system does have some assembly required. You have a outer black end. This is your electrical, which is going to connect to the actual bulb, and you have an inner white connection. So once the white connection is removed, you can put your quartz tube through, and it just slides through as one continuous unit. Then you're given a packet of O-rings and gaskets. Yep, so the round ones, go ahead, are for the quartz tube. So the O-ring goes on the outside of the quartz tube. And then there is a packet of flat gaskets, which this is for the electrical connection. The flat one will sit in this black connection around the connector and you tighten it down. It's kind of like a double gasket, double check.
These are crappy.
So you have the O-ring around the quartz tube, you space it each side, and then you're basically just going to take your white connection for the quartz tube, tighten it back down. When you're tightening both the white connections, you want to do them evenly, or as evenly as possible, to not push the O-ring off. There we go. So you want to thread it down and kind of ease it in. You do not want to take channel locks or a large set of pliers to that because it is glass. So just hand tighten it. Sometimes you may have to adjust that after the fact, which is more than okay, and there are ways to do. When you put the electrical connection on, you put the black flat gasket around the white electrical connection. Connect it to the bulb. You want to hold the bulb steady on one end. That way you don't push it out one side. Push it on, and then you rinse and repeat and do the same thing to the other side. Tighten that down, that way the bulb's not going to move on you. And this still has 1.5 inch fittings with a union threaded into it. So our PVC, our flexible PVC, is going to glue into here, and you have a disconnect if you do want to take this in during the winter and put it inside. So you're going to basically get a wheelbarrow, tractor, like we have here, a skid steer. You're going to take some of your 7 tons of masonry sand for this 24-foot pool, disperse the sand around the perimeter. You'll then take hand tools, whether it be a rake, come along, or shovel, manipulate that sand to meet the bottom of this patio block to make sure it holds everything level. This sand will be the finish that what's going to be worked down that the liner will be set on top of. So just to help you identify some of the components, this pool that we have here is a resin pool, so most of the components are made of a high density, strong plastic. This is an upright. This is the piece that's going to attach to the bottom plates that you've already seen. From here, clicks down into place. This is the top part. You then have a top plate that screws down and attaches on top of this. There's multiple screw holes in this so that if you have not done the perfect job of making sure everything is true, you can adjust the screws left to right and forward to backwards of how it's attached. So that gives you some room to have some play and wiggle to where if it's not perfect, you can use this to shore it up and make it perfect. This is the top cap. This is more or less the beauty piece that will cover over the screw heads and basically makes it look cleaner and a nicer aesthetic finish. On a day like today, where we've had some rain come through last night, the soil's a little wet, a little muddy. So as the machine's been coming in and out, there's some dirt clods. It is important to get those out. You want a nice fine layer of sand all through it. You don't want mud mixed in because it'll work its way up and you'll have a soft spot in the bottom of the pool. So as you can see, he's digging the dirt that's there out, getting it out of the sand. He has a nice long rake. You don't have to use one of the big commercial ones. You can use a regular household rake, and you're just using that around the perimeter to start to rake down the sand, get it level with the bottom of the track all the way around. It'll be done in the center as well. It's just what they're working on, still bringing in the sand into the pool to work it around. So as the pool is still being worked on and they're putting sand into the bottom of the pool, the other guys out here are more or less laying out the next components. If you're doing this yourself, this is not something that is totally necessary, but it does make your life easier because as you're coming to each upright, you have the components necessary here next to you. So you're not having to walk back and forth from the boxes to the pool as often. You lay everything out around each upright, around the perimeter of the pool, so it's more accessible. So our crews typically do not need to refer to this, but this is the instruction manual that comes with the pool. Gives you a breakdown of how to build it, what each component does, how it goes on. So this will be something that if you're doing this as a DIY, you will be referring to from start to finish. It goes over everything in thorough depth as far as what we're doing that can seem like it's happening very quickly. This will come in your hardware box. There's multiple different packages of different type screws for different parts of the build. So think of this section of the pool build more like a piece of IKEA furniture to where what he's doing now is separating out the screws. If you're doing this at home for your first time, you may want to leave them in the bag. That way you have a number on each bag to refer to. And that way you know which screw correlates to each component and you're not going to miss or lose anything. Everything on these pools is going to be galvanized steel. That way it's not going to rust. If you lose something and you have to replace it on your own, it is important to make sure that it is at least galvanized steel. That way it's not going to rust and you won't have any problems in the future. So right now what he's doing is bringing the liner in. He's going to place it off to the side. The wall is coming into, the wall is the part that you're going to want a few extra hands in because you have to roll it out into the track, and it's heavy. It's, you know, depending on the component of the pool that you buy, if it's a steel wall pool, it's going to weigh double, if not triple, than if it's aluminum. Aluminum's a lighter material, going to hold up better out here. But next we'll have a video of them showing how the wall's rolled out. When you're rolling your wall out, when you first cut the ties off the middle of the wall, you want to be careful because it will have some tension in it so it doesn't spring out on you. As you're rolling it out, you're making sure that it seats in the bottom track. You do want to make sure this track is cleaned out beforehand. So all this sand that's been getting brushed and raked around, you do not want any sand in that track. And this is yet again another phase where you'll want a few set of hands to help roll this out. One person on the roll, one person making sure it is actually getting into that bottom track. And if you look down here, you have a middle block. So basically, as you try to put that weight on the wall, this track's going to want to move. You have an extra block here ready to slide underneath to help hold the weight of that wall up so it doesn't sink down and the wall actually slides into this track like it's supposed to. So over there, just got a little bit of sand in the track. It's important, if you see, that will happen. There's a lot of sand out here. If you see sand get into the track that the bottom of the wall is clipping into, very important to get it out. That will make it very difficult because the wall will not be able to seat down into the track all the way. So take the time, get the sand out of the track. So here we are, putting our middle block in midway through the track. And that's just to help to support the weight of the wall. That way you don't have any low spots in between. And just go around. He's basically chasing behind the guys rolling out the wall to make sure that the middle section of the track is supported throughout the entire pool. So here we are inside, pushing the sand out towards the edges of the pool. This is basically making a cove. That way you have a nice curved transition from where the liner is going to fit along the wall and radius out to meet the bottom of the sand. Another thing this is doing is helping push the walls back out to the rebar that was set on the outside of the track. If you pan down here, so you see how this one's touching. This one here's got a little gap. When he pushes his sand, it's going to help push it out towards it. You basically, well, right now it's moving it, but you push it all the way around and it's going to meet it flush. Here, down here. Pushes the track out to the rebar to meet our flush measurements. So this is the upright, which we showed you earlier. It has like a tongue and groove connection to where it slides and pops down into the bottom. It has two fastening screws on either side. Depending on the model of your pool, this may attach slightly different. With the plastic ones, it typically clicks into place and you have screws that hold it. At the same time as the uprights are going up, you're putting your bead receiver. So the liner going in this pool today is what's called a beaded liner. It does not overhang the outside edge. It's like an in-ground swimming pool where it clips into the track. And these screws are just to hold that upright in place. And this white track, as you can see on top, is the actual bead receiver. In a moment, we'll give you a pan of the inside, and you'll see the liner getting installed in it where it's kind of tongue and groove, clips and locks into that track. That way you can replace it easier in the future to where if you build a deck around this swimming pool, you can change this liner without having to remove that deck. So here we are connecting the two different ends of the walls. You have a washer here. It's basically just a straight piece of metal with the holes drilled in it. There's one on the outside of the pool and there's one on the inside of the pool. The important part of this is make sure that the heads of your bolt or screw is on the inside. You do not want to put the nuts on the inside of the pool because that'll be a problem for the liner. So make sure the nuts are on the exterior, and you want to line this seam where you start your wall up with an upright. That way these screws are hidden by the upright and it's not visible in the future. Another thing that you'll want to do is on the inside of the pool, lay a few layers of duct tape over the actual bolt heads. That way it's a softer fit seam so that the liner doesn't have any issues laying down on top of it. So this homeowner has purchased our platinum package, which basically gets 2 returns. So this is something you can choose to do or not to do. He's drilling a pilot hole for his punch to add the second return into this pool. Now, for years and years and years, pools like this have been done with 1 return or 2 returns. If you decide to do this package on your own, you can leave 1 return and that'd be fine. And that'll be the one on the right that comes from the factory, but they decided to buy our platinum package, which comes with 2. Reason I'm saying I would recommend leaving it with 1 if this is a DIY is because a lot of this punch that he's about to pull out is going to be a specialty component that is not easily accessible. So I would recommend just sticking with 1 single return. And you can see how this thing works. It's just a compression fitting. You tighten the drill down and it pops a hole through the wall. And there's your second hole. So this homeowner has opted for our remote controlled LED light that mounts into the stair. Has Bluetooth app to where you can control the lights with your phone. This is an option that you can choose to get depending on which package you buy. It's a great light, works very well. This here is the Catfish. This is the robotic pool cleaner. Basically another option that you can choose to buy, whether you're doing it yourself or buying a pool from us. It's an electric jet, rolls around the bottom of the pool, has bags and canisters inside to hold the dirt and debris. Other things you'll get with this is a chemical starter kit, maintenance kit, which says your vacuum, your brushes, your nets, and then your vacuum hose for you to be able to clean the swimming pool. So basically, down here on the ground, we have just a standard shop vac. This is kind of actually a small one. This is what we're going to use to suck the liner tight. If you have a rigid, doesn't matter the brand, you're just going to want to have your hose run through either one of the return jets or the skimmer and then close off the other feature. So he's just got a piece of cardboard from one of the boxes out here, taping it up so that when we go to put the liner in, you're going to turn the shop vac on and it's going to suck the backside of the liner tight. That way there's not going to be any wrinkles in the floor or in the wall. It gives you a cleaner look, and the vacuum from the shop vac is what does it for you. It saves you a lot of labor. So when you're raking the sand out, you want it to be as smooth and level as possible. You do want to wear soft shoes. Don't have any like boots, heavy shoes on. Our guy here in the pool now has Crocs on to try and minimize the imprint and indentations in the sand. Now with this being a sand bottom, it will not ever be perfect. You can spend time on it, get it as level as you can, but regardless, it will always have indentations. It will always have bumps, waves, and curves. It will not be a smooth concrete finish. It is sand and it will stay that way. So he's walking around the perimeter of the pool, taking a shop broom and sweeping down the sand to help level it and make it flat. This is a key phase to try and keep the bottom of the pool as level as possible. If you do a bad job at this, it's not going to mean anything's going to break. It just means the bottom of your pool is going to be more wavy and more dimples, and it may be a little bit more difficult to vacuum out your dirt and debris once the pool is complete because it's more of a wavy bottom. So if you have extra time, spend a lot of time to make this level and flat and clean. Just like this outer edge right here below me, looks really nice. The top of the cove is not necessarily have to be like measured level or perfect. The weight of the liner is going to push a lot of this down and kind of sink it down for you. So you guys just saw the overhead video. We got the liner in. We're still working on getting the top track put on along the top of the pool. Got our shop vac hooked up. It is turned on and running. We're trying to get that liner sucked tight to the pool wall. That way we can get rid of all the wrinkles. We got our same guy in the pool with his shoes on. He's always walking around the outer perimeter, and you're gonna see him jump and kick. That's to pull the wrinkles that are in the middle of the pool towards the outer edge where there's more room for the material. This is not too slow, but you do want to take your time doing it. Make sure you're wearing some protective stuff on your feet again, because you don't want any additional indentations into the sand underneath the liner. So once this track gets on, we'll be starting water in the pool here shortly. Now over here to my left, this is the top rail. So you have the top plate, top rail. Earlier we showed you the different screw holes to where you can use that to line up to make sure it's all perfect. 2 screws go in the top, and then our beauty cover go on like so in a moment once we get the rest of the actual top rails on. So this is just the guys working around the outer perimeter, one working right behind another just to be efficient with their time. We got Mike to the right finishing up the track. Got a little rubber mallet, he's popping on that to get it put on. The more people you can have working on more things at one time, the quicker it'll get done. So here at the bottom, you have your bottom track, your wall. So where it was exposed and up out of the ground a little bit, you want to take some of the dirt from the dig, backfill, which you're eventually going to, as a homeowner, you're going to want to fill this up a little bit more. But as us as a builder, we just basically want to help lock this track in and to hold it all in place. Put a few inches of dirt. You want to do that before you start putting a whole lot of water in the pool, just to help hold everything in place. So next we're going to show you about the liner cut in and how that's done. As a homeowner, if you're doing this yourself, you may want to wait till the pool is more full than ours is, because ours only maybe has 2 inches of water in the bottom. So there's a lot of slack between the liner and the wall because that weight of the water hasn't pushed it flat. So we have one guy on the inside of the pool who's basically going to step down on the liner to push it in flat like that. If this is something you're uncomfortable with doing this as on your own, and simply wait till the pool is halfway full and this liner will push flat and it'll make it easier for you. However, we don't have the time to sit here for 16 hours to wait for the pool to fill, so we have another method of stepping down to push it flat, and I'm just going to show you a video of how this is done. So basically all he's doing here is making some pilot holes through the liner. He's getting a screwdriver with a bit on it, popping holes to the back so this guy knows where the liner is going to meet up. He's got his faceplate with his gasket on the back side of it with 2 screws on the top, pushing it through. Guy on the back side of the wall mounts his gasket, sets it on there, then he's going to grab his skimmer body, set it up flush with those 2 screws, and then once they get it lined up, the guy on the inside of the pool is going to run the screws through, cinch it down. If you are using an impact at home, you want to be mindful about overdoing it, because this is plastic with metal. So if you're using an impact, do not crank it down too tight or you can break the skimmer. So just a couple pops just to cinch it down. If you're worried about breaking the skimmer, you know, because you could get cracks on it, just use a handheld screwdriver. It'll be more work, but you can have a better, less likely to damage it. Other guys now continue to attach our PVC plumbing to the bottom of the skimmer, while the guy on the inside of the pool is just finishing setting the rest of the screws along the faceplate. When it comes time to cut the liner, the rectangular section from the inside of this, you do not want to do that till every screw has been tightened down and checked to make sure that it's secure, which this can take a little bit of time. Anytime you're putting holes to the liner on purpose, you want to just be careful and take your time. All right, so here we are about to cut in the returns. You got the guy on the inside of the pool pushing the liner through. He's basically making an impression, cutting around the outside of the liner, removing the excess material. He's keeping pressure on it the whole time until this nut with gasket is on it. That's important because this is one of the seals that can be most likely to leak if you don't do it right. Tighten it down. You go hand tight, give it about a half to a full turn with the channel locks. Don't want to overdo it. Make sure that your gaskets are not pinching and that they're just snugged down. You'll get to see it again on the second return. And keep in mind, if your pool has one return, you're only having to do this once. Guy pushing through with the return fitting, making his cuts, trimming up the outside, applying quite a bit of pressure from the inside of the pool to make sure that that liner does not sag at all. And yet again, if you filled your pool half full, this will be a little bit easier to do. Now he's just attaching his threaded adapters for the return line of the filter system to get plumbed into. On the male threads of those adapters, you want around 10 wraps of Teflon tape. You can use silicone on the threads if you want, but Teflon tape, if you use it, should be good. Gluing the little header for the return lines in, kind of pre-made. When you're attaching your plumbing and your fittings, you're going to be putting pressure on the wall. Since there's no water in this, it's got a lot of wiggle to it. The guy on the pool, on the inside of the pool, is basically just putting pressure against it and holding it down. We have your skimmer, which is where the water gets sucked through. Basket goes in here. Water that runs down into the front of the pump. Pump basket runs up into the multi-port valve. This is full of sand like you already saw get filled earlier. This is where the dirt and debris gets caught. After the water runs through the filter, it comes out on this side where there's another shutoff valve. Runs down through the UV system, back out and into the pool. So you just kind of a filtration loop and all the water running through back to the pool, which we will not be turning this on right now because we do not have enough water in the swimming pool.